When talking with business owners about systemizing and creating procedures and processes in their business, I often get asked the question, where should I focus first? Which area of the business do I need to work on for systems, procedures, etc.? And that's a great question, because you could almost start anywhere, because it's almost like, well, we've got to think big but start small. How do you eat an elephant? One mouthful at a time. Yet, to give you maybe some guidance around that question, there's three areas that you could potentially look at. I really think systemizing the customer experience is mandatory. Right from when, for example, an inquiry comes in, the phone is answered, the customer greeting, the questions that are asked, right through to the product recommendations and delivering on the product or the process, right through to the end in the handover. Regardless of whether you're business to business or business to consumer, the end-to-end experience of your customer is super important. And I think that needs to be mapped out, generally to start off with, and then you can make it really specific. And everyone on your team, I believe, needs to know what that looks like, because everyone is in sales. I'll say that again, everyone on your team is actually in sales, regardless of what role they are playing, because doing what they do really well is super important. They might not speak to the customer. For example, someone who invoices at the end and does all the bookwork, but the promptness of which that's sent out, how that is followed up if payment hasn't been made, is an example of branding and the touch points of the company. So the customer experience is one area that you could start. And I think by doing that, you'll get clarity on how you can create an even better customer experience. Secondly, you could have a look at which roles in the business you play as the owner. So for example, if you weren't in your business for a week or a fortnight, or you needed to take longer out of your business, what role do you play in the business? And what procedures and checklists and systems could be written to support that, so that other people could take over what you're doing if you weren't around. And I think from a long-term perspective, that ideally is a great goal to have, because if you want to create freedom, flexibility, and the ability to have a business that operates independent of you at some stage, that's another great place to start. And thirdly, have a look at where all the risks are involved in the business. So think about the areas that we often neglect until we go, holy crap, we need to have something in place for that. So risk management doesn't necessarily need to be about insurances. Yeah? We often think about that, but a system or a process can be a form of insurance. So what I really think is where the riskiest component could be is around your pricing of jobs. If you don't accurately price your jobs, that's a risk. Yeah, you're going to be losing money or not making as much gross profit as you possibly could. Delivering on aspects of your job, workplace health and safety is a risk component. Interacting with the customer is a risk component. Job handover and completion is a risky process if not done effectively. Managing variations, documenting those, making sure that the customer's happy before you go ahead and do the work, and they're going to pay for that as well. That's a risky process. Other things could be at the end is getting paid. All right, what terms and conditions do you have in place for payment? You know, making sure that is really clear right up front with the person that you're doing business with, so that the expectations can be met. What happens if there is no payment? Okay, or there's a delay in payment? What's your process? What's your follow-up? That's a risk as well. So when they talk about insurance, insurance is one of the things that, you know, you don't really like paying, but when you need it, you go, I'm glad I paid for it. It's the thing we often don't think about until we really need it. So again, that could be an area of your business that you could focus on creating some structure and process and checklists around. So again, three areas to consider, because I'm glad you're thinking about writing some processes and systems and procedures, and you think long-term around this. Over the next 12 months, you could create, if you wrote one a week or created one or two a week, 50 to 100, and that's a great head start on a lot of other businesses. The three areas we talked about were the customer experience, the key areas of the business that you're involved with, and what areas pose the most risk moving forward. I trust that makes sense, and if you'd love some support in implementing those procedures and systems, please be in touch, and all the very best.